close are you feeling now that you can really target top spot and possibly even, come out at the end of the 22 games with maybe the win, the first place?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, we're not looking too far ahead now. I think this stage of the season, the important thing is you almost don't look too far ahead and you go week by week. I think the time for planning and plotting and staging your way through games is gone now. It's about getting your head down and enjoying every experience. And if you're second in the Premiership and you're not enjoying every occasion, especially here at Sandy Park, then that's what you're getting wrong. I don't want the players to be worrying about where they end up at the end of the season. I want them to be going out here and going flat out against Northampton because it's a big game. It's going to likely to be a sellout crowd. Weather's going to be fantastic. The pitch is in great nick. Everything is there to say this should be a great game of rugby, and that's what we should cherish. I don't want the guys worrying about what's ahead. I want them to focus on making the most of this 80 minutes. Your time as a professional sportsman is quite limited, and the only thing I want them to do is maximise this time and this opportunity and make sure they look back on it with a bit of pride.
Franklin's Gardens on New Year's Day is probably, when you write your memoirs, an 8-3 loss on New Year's Day is probably not one of the games that's going to jump to the top of the list for things to write about. What improvements do you feel your side has made to ensure that doesn't happen again?
Well, I think first and foremost, what you've got to look at, and as I say, over the course of the season, is how you are collecting points. And I actually think, a close loss away at Northampton, having only conceded 8 points, isn't a terrible result. Especially following up a short turnaround. Was a 5-day turnaround from a pretty tough fixture here against Sale, where we got 5 points and we committed a lot to the game. So on its own, I don't think it stands for too much. Obviously, what we want to do is play well here. I don't think the fixture holds too much in its way for either side. It won't hold too much for Northampton either, because they probably don't feel they played that well on the day either. So I think it's more about just focusing on ourselves and what we want to do now. As I've said, this time of year it's about getting the right people on the pitch and having them in the right condition and the right frame of mind and getting out there and trying to win the games.
And finally, for me, it's a game you play against a side that are gunning for a top 4 place as well. So if you were to get the win, not only will it be 4 points for you, but you'll open up a gap against one of your big rivals.
That's right, and I think a couple of the lads have already talked about it. That's what makes it one of those fantastic occasions here at the club. It's potentially an 8-point game, really, in a lot of ways. And like I say, the important thing for me is that we relish that and enjoy it, and it brings the best out of us. And we just focus on this 80 minutes. And as I said, don't get too worried about what people are talking about, what might be in the future. The rewards will come depending on how we play week by week and how we train day by day, and that's all we're going to focus on.
So, Andy, thank you very much.
Great.
Rob, you talked in the aftermath of Newcastle last week about really grinding out wins, and it's going to take a while to beat some of these sides at the bottom that are really fighting for their lives, and that was the case last week.
Well, I think the case is now. You don't catch anybody out by surprise, and I think that was the case with Newcastle. They did some good things that kind of stifled some of what we did. That on top of the fact that we made a lot of mistakes. The truth is we turned the ball over 22 times, which we don't mind making a few mistakes. That's the way we play, and if you're going to play a lot of rugby and you're going to try and score tries, you will make mistakes. Everyone's aware of that. We're not going to be a team that just kicks the ball away and doesn't make mistakes in attack, because that's not what we do. But at the same time, we did make some soft ones, and we've talked a bit this week about we're making things a little bit hard for ourselves by just pushing the odd pass we maybe don't need to, being a little bit loose on the floor and letting balls get a bit bobbling around, especially the surfaces are hardening up a bit now. So we've just talked a little bit about just tightening up our responsibility around the area around the ball that's being played, and I think that will have a big effect for us. Newcastle were a dogged side and they stood in front of us, but we still scored 4 tries. And the truth is, if you actually watch the game, and we had 2/3 possession, 2/3 territory. The majority of that game was being played in one area of the pitch, and it was in Newcastle's half. And they scored 2 pretty much breakaway tries, which kept the scoreboard tight. So in a lot of ways, I'm really pleased with the lads. Their energy and their endeavour was fantastic. As I say, we dominated huge parts of the game, and ultimately he's got a 5-point win. And anybody who says 5-point wins at this time of the year aren't the most valuable thing, well, they're getting things wrong.
We're missing a few, Northampton are missing a few, but even so, they'll come down with a squad that have been in this sort of situation before, getting at the business end of the season. So it's kind of almost a new experience to a few of our lads. They were there last season, but still relatively new to them.
And I kind of think that's the thing. I think the thing is not to focus too much on that it's a different game and what's riding on it and what may happen at the end. Those things, obviously, they should be incentives for you to play well, and they shouldn't be things that make you feel nervous and worried. And I think that's the only message we're sending to players now. Let's get excited about things. Let's enjoy these big occasions. Let's not get nervous and worried about it. If we underperform, because I've got lads out there who are nervous and worried about dropping out of the top 4, then I'm getting something wrong. That's the last thing I want them to do. If we go out there and we make mistakes because we're playing hard and we're playing to win the game, I can deal with that. And I think that's the important thing with our mentality as we turn up to play to win the game.
You talked about Damien and Mitch getting close. Henry Slade coming back last week. Lockie Turner's almost a month into life here now. Everything's coming good at a good time for you.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, other than this bit of annoyance with what's happened with Tom Francis last weekend, we are looking strong. We're looking good. The squad are looking pretty fresh, and they're running around pretty sprightly. As I said, we're not really decided. You look at any Premiership season as being a tough old slog. Yeah, I like to think, like I say, we should cherish Premiership seasons. It's still a fantastic thing to be involved with, and our lads are just looking forward to making the most of it.